On this episode of When I'm Not Podcasting, I want to talk about tipping, gratuities. So I understand about this because I do drive for Uber. And I know that other people, especially during the pandemic, for the last, 10, 11 months we've been doing this, the idea of tipping has been a little more on the minds of people that are out there. But when you're a rideshare driver, I know one of the things that might piss some people off is because of the fact that Uber and Lyft and some other companies out there, maybe the Grubhubs or the DoorDashes of the world, I can't say for sure, they might be adding surges, or I might be adding some additional fees based on the amount of time of what's being done out there and how many riders are, how many drivers are out there, and how many customers are out there asking. So when supply and demand gets a little bit warped, and the demand is much more, then the prices go up. It's just a normal way of life. Well, what happens as a result is that there's only so much that actually goes to the drivers, not too much, as a matter of fact. But then the tips go down. Doing Uber Eats for tipping, okay. Uber Eats delivery, when I was doing that in May and June, and I was specifically only doing that because a couple months after the pandemic, and we already started seeing that, the restaurants were allowed to go ahead and open up a little bit more, and they were able to go ahead and have curbside and things like that. And even more so, people were starting to go inside and dine in a little bit with social distancing. So it was like at, 25% capacity at the time, which some other states have now still. The idea was that people actually tipped a lot. And also because Uber would also put a lot of things where the service fees were dropped. Or they would offer a lot of discounts because that was really trying to boost up the restaurants to get more deliveries. Since they weren't going to go ahead and drive themselves to curbside, they would use Uber Eats to go ahead and deliver to their home. And a lot of different places got taken advantage of for that. Well, we're getting some of that out of the way because now tipping is becoming something that's being less of being offered. Grubhub is the latest to really allow this, and this happened actually back in December as we talk about this here. California-based workers reacted angrily to Grubhub and their changes to the platform where they discourage tipping. Now, this is what happens as well with Uber. If you want to remember to tip somebody, I did an Uber ride myself not a couple weeks ago, or actually, no, last week as I record this. And when I put it in there, I was like, I want to go and tip the guy because, whatever. And I had to go to the profile of the person. I actually had to go back to the ride itself, look for add a tip. And it wasn't even real big letters. You had to go back and physically look for the tip, add a tip link, go to it, and then I could add it. And then again, if the tipping was there, it was 20, 25% other. And that was it. And that's what I had to deal with. Now, weeks after the ruling, Grubhub reduced its default tip amount from about 20% to zero, and adding a suggestion to, quote, leave an optional tip on top of driver benefits. So don't even put a number in there. Just whatever you like. Don't even put 20, 25%, 30%, where even in the restaurants, they put that on the bills. So why would Grubhub or other places like Uber Eats not put that out there? It's not that much of an inconvenience, but oh well. Now, other apps, Grubhub added an additional benefit fee, in this case $1.50 to each order in California. But the money is put into a centralized pot for which only a limited number of drivers are expected to fully qualify. So tipping pools are trying to be created. So we can't even get people gratuities based on their performance. They have to put into a pool. Now, I understand tipping pools when it comes to restaurants for the dishwashers, the bottle cleaners, or the dishwashers, the prep cooks, the cooks themselves. I totally understand that part too. So seeing a percentage of those tips having to be put out, whether it's 1, 5, 10%, whatever, I get that part. But man, when you're individual drivers and you are an independent contractor doing this, and to go ahead and have a pool, you don't even know how much money is going into it. It's pretty shitty right there. And I don't think you're getting that much of a tip from that. So I agree with these riders not getting that. So under Proposition 22, workers receive a health care stipend provided they clock in at least an average of 15 hours per week on one of the gig gaps. To qualify, workers must already be the primary policyholder on an existing health care plan. So there's things they're doing with this, but one of the things was more important was to the benefits not being high enough to compensate for encouraging no tipping. It's pretty shitty. There was a study by University of California, Santa Cruz back in May that determined that delivery workers are particularly dependent on tips, which account for 30% of their estimated earnings. A Grubhub worker in San Francisco Bay Area named Janine said, I keep records and there's a complete flip. It's stunning. Yeah, less tips. Now, she shared with the Financial Times, which I'm getting the story from, a breakdown of her tips on the platform before and after. And again, it's a complete flip. Now, here's what I'm saying as I make my point here. There's something to be said about when you're getting tips, we're not talking about that you should tip more. No, I'm not saying that at all. And it's okay. Listen, everybody's struggling a little bit here. I get it. But the truth is, it is the goodness of your heart. I mean, remember, if you're going to tip somebody, it's for good service, it's warranted, do it. Like right now, I'm happy to give 30% at least for somebody that does work for me, okay? I at least try to offer 30% tips. It's the least I can do. Listen, for a lot of people that are still struggling to get their businesses off the ground, I try to go to a lot of smaller businesses. You know, I got to buy one of my favorite pizza shops I go to, and I'll tell you what, every time I go in there, $2, $3, $4, I pop it in. If I'm going to a Dunkin' Donuts, I'll drop in $1. It's just what I do. It's one of those things that I want to just be very helpful and just know that, man, everybody's working out there. If they're going to make a little bit of money from it, then God help them, man. Let's do it. I want to be able to help out. Now, one of the things that can be done as well, listen, there's a lot of things you can do here. What my concern is, what I'm sure other people are concerned with, is that the tipping is no longer point of center on the apps. After the drive is done, you know, after the rating, then please offer, hey, would you like to leave a tip? It's not going to take more than a minute for that person to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to leave $1. And really, if even if it's just $1, that's fine. We don't expect anybody to tip over the top. Like, listen, the whole thing that you got to tip, like, you know, 10%, 20%, 30%. Same idea if, like, you go to church. They talk about tithing. You got to put 10% of your entire income. No. It's what you feel, what you want to give, what you can afford. That's how it comes down to. So when you have that ear, that's up to you how you feel like being gratuitous. That's what it comes down to. Listen, I go to Twin Peaks. I go to watch the football games. The girl right there, they are on top. Listen, when a place like a restaurant, like a Twin Peaks restaurant, which is a chain, you know, they got the lumberjack outfits, the girls, right? It's like a Hooters. It's like a Wing House. You've heard of these places. Tilted Kilt. I'm sure you've heard of that too. The idea is, I'm not worried about the girl being pretty and being real, you know, just listen, if she's got a good personality, she's really nice, she's taking care of your food, she's taking care of your orders, she's checking up on you, and the food is coming in fast and furious, and they are like on their game, tip them. Tip them good because they deserve it, man. Talk about like when, you know, if you realize, remember, some of these people that are in the waiting industry, bartenders, whatever it is, they're only making $3, $4, $5 an hour. They're completely reliant on tips. So are the ride shares. They absolutely are in the same way. They do the courier stuff. If they're able to get something like that, then do it, man. Especially for food. At the least, it's going to benefit the drivers. But what was more important to these tech companies, the apps that are being made, put the tips prominently after a service is completed. Listen, at the same time, rate and tip. Always. Allow it. And now, here's the thing. I don't even care if you put it as 0 and then put it as you want. You want to put a penny? I don't care. But what I would do is, I would at least say, hey, don't even have to put a percentage on there of the tip. Just allow them. It's like a Cash App. It's like a Venmo, whatever. You know, people do that where it's like, listen, there's not a particular amount you put in there. It's not a denomination. It's not a percentage. It's what you feel. So maybe the person might be nice enough to say, hey, you know what? I want to just not do 20, 25%, 30%. I'm going to just put a number in there. Here we go. $10, $20, whatever you want. And really, it doesn't make a difference if you put cash in hand either. I mean, cash in hand is wonderful. And I actually like to trade it as much as I can as well. But again, tips on the app feels really good. It feels good to get that extra in there. We look at it, and then the best thing that Uber does do, I really like, is they actually have a section now where I bet you Uber drivers, you don't know this, but please do it. Please do it. If you're getting a tip and you see it's on the app, go ahead and go to the inbox, check the tips out, hit the button that says send thanks for tip. Please do that. It's very important. Please do that. If Lyft offers that, do the same thing. We're working for tips as well. And I'm telling you, you want to make extra money, guys, and you're worried about the compensation, I guess this is where Proposition 22 in California I could care less about. We're independent contractors. If we can make extra money on tips, more to us. That's what's important. I will leave it there. We'll talk to you next time.